Is the saint of Port Charles actually its most dangerous resident? Or is she just a mother who has finally been pushed to the absolute edge? That's the question on everyone's lips right now as we watch the horrifying transformation of Willow Corinthos. We've known her for years as the nurse who saves lives, the soft-spoken congresswoman, and the moral compass of the family. But lately, she's looking more like a captor who destroys lives. You really have to wonder when the line between protection and psychopathy became so thin for the Corinthos family. We're diving deep today into some shocking spoilers that suggest a day of reckoning is finally coming for both Willow and Nina. But as always in the world of General Hospital, the sentence might be heavy, but the truth remains a very different, very hidden monster. Let's set the stage first, because the context here is absolutely wild. We just saw Willow receive a not guilty verdict for the shooting of Drew Kane. On paper, she's a free woman. But in reality, that acquittal is a total mockery of justice. It's left characters like Trina and Kai absolutely reeling because they know exactly what she did. My analysis of this is that the win in court was actually the worst thing that could have happened to Willow's soul. Think about it. It gave her a sense of invincibility. When you get away with shooting a man twice in the back, you start to believe the rules of gravity and morality simply don't apply to you. But here's the twist. The legal truth says she's innocent, but the actual truth is that she is a cold-blooded attempted murder. And to keep that truth hidden, Willow has moved from using a gun to using a syringe. She's been drugging Drew with a paralytic medication that mimics a stroke. Psychologically, this is a fascinating shift. Willow isn't just covering up a crime anymore. She's engaging in a long-term, calculated torture of the man she failed to kill. It's no longer about a split-second mistake on a pier. It's about a daily choice to keep a human being locked in their own body just so she can keep her seat in Congress and her cozy life at the gatehouse. Why is Willow acting this way? Well, think about it. The sources suggest there's a cult mindset at play here. Growing up under the thumb of Shiloh and Dawn of Day, Willow learned that survival often requires extreme measures. She learned how to control the narrative at any cost. Now that her life is perfect, the prospect of losing Wiley and Amelia has triggered a dormant survival instinct that is frankly terrifying. She isn't just a mother anymore. She's a survivor who has decided that she will never be the victim again, even if it means making Drew the victim for the rest of his life. Internally, Willow must be vibrating with a level of anxiety that would break a normal person. The funny thing is, she's not unhinged because she's inherently evil. She's unhinged because she's exhausted. Every time she looks at Drew, she isn't seeing a man. She's seeing a living, breathing evidence locker that she has to keep shut at all costs. Nina, on the other hand, is drowning in a different kind of guilt. She finally has the daughter she always wanted, but that daughter is a monster. Nina is terrified that if she doesn't help Willow, she'll lose the only biological connection she has left. It's a classic Nina Reeves trauma response. Let's reframe this whole situation for a second. Willow isn't just drugging Drew. She's holding a mirror up to the entire Corinthos and Quartermain legacy. For years, these families have used the greater good to justify all sorts of crimes. Willow is simply the latest and most extreme version of that philosophy. She's convinced herself that her presence in her children's lives is so essential that any crime, kidnapping, medical abuse, illegal confinement, is totally justified. It's a God complex hidden behind a nursing degree and a soft voice. In my opinion, the legal system in Port Charles is officially broken. Trina is 100% right to be outraged. The acquittal was a slap in the face to every victim of violence in that town. But the real heavy sentence isn't going to come from a judge. It's going to come from the psychological weight of what they're doing. Nina stabbing Jack Brennan with the same syringe intended for Drew is the height of poetic irony. It shows that chaos cannot be contained. You can't play with poison and expect not to get stung yourself. Nina's behavior here is textbook enabler. She wants to be the good mother so badly that she has completely abandoned her own moral compass. Her ego is tied to being meted by Willow. When she stabs Brennan, it feels like a Freudian slip of the highest order. Subconsciously, maybe Nina wants the secret out. Maybe she wants the burden taken off her shoulders, so she accidentally creates a situation where the truth is forced into the light. The situation at the house has moved from a controlled cover-up to a total bloodbath of errors. Nina got distracted by a phone call from Valentine and failed to give Drew his regular dose of the paralytic. This is a massive turning point. My prediction is that this one missed dose is the crack in the dam that brings the whole house of cards down. We're already seeing Drew move his fingers. This isn't just a medical update. It's a ticking time bomb for Willow. Imagine the horror for Drew. He's lying there, listening to the woman he once cared for discuss how to keep him trapped. He hears Nina mention that Kai knows the truth. This is the first ray of hope Drew has had in months. It changes the power dynamic instantly. For the first time, Drew knows there is a potential ally on the outside. This shift in knowledge is often more powerful than the physical ability to move. Drew is no longer just a victim. He's a strategist waiting for the right moment to strike. While the shooting charge is gone thanks to double jeopardy, the new crimes are piling up fast. We are talking about illegal confinement, medical abuse, and forced drugging. Nina's attack on Brennan with a syringe wasn't just a mistake. It was a criminal act of violence with a controlled substance. I believe the heavy sentences mentioned in the spoilers aren't just metaphorical. There are strong rumors of a 2026 exit for Willow. This suggests that the Saint might finally find herself trading her scrubs for a prison jumpsuit in Pentonville. If the truth about the drugging comes out, Willow will lose everything: her kids, her career, her husband, and her seat in Congress. But here is where it gets even darker. Willow is becoming unhinged. When people feel like the walls are closing in, they become their most dangerous. I predict Willow might actually try to eliminate the loose ends. She's already keeping an eye on Kai and Trina. If she feels the secret is about to break, what's stopping her from another accident on the docks? She might even turn to someone like Sidwell to help her solve the problem of Michael Corinthos. While the Willow drama is a total horror show, we have a parallel story of parental cover-ups happening with Dante, Lulu, and Rocco. Dante has finally pieced together that his own son, Rocco, shot Cullum. The contrast here is fascinating. Lulu covered for her son out of a raw, maternal instinct to protect a child from the consequences of a mistake. But Willow? Willow is covering for herself out of ego and a desire for power. Dante's reaction is the moral center of this story. He's heartbroken, not just because of what Rocco did, but because he was lied to by the person he should have been able to trust the most. This mirrors the eventual fallout we're going to see between Willow and Michael. When Michael finally discovers that his perfect wife has been drugging his brother, the explosion will be nuclear. Michael is already suspicious. He's asking Christina if she has proof that Willow tried to kill Drew. He isn't stupid. He knows something is rotten in the state of Port Charles. As if the House of Cards wasn't shaky enough, we have the Corinthos brothers heading for a final showdown at the art gallery. Sonny is in a shoot first, ask questions later mood. He's convinced Rick has betrayed him. My interpretation is that Sonny is projecting his frustration with his crumbling empire onto his brother. He can't control Willow and he can't find Jocelyn, so he's going to take it out on Rick. Rick, being Rick, thinks he can talk his way out of a bullet. But with Ethan, Sonny's new right-hand man, in the mix, the traditional rules of brotherly bickering are out the window. Ava is also caught in the crosshairs, and for once, the queen of manipulation looks genuinely uneasy. The psychological tension here is at an all-time high. Everyone is playing a double game, and the gallery is about to become a literal crime scene. The wild card in all of this is Sidwell. Willow is planning a high-stakes meeting with him to protect her interests. This is the ultimate fall from grace. A woman who was once the moral compass of the show is now making deals with a man who bombs penthouses and kills, without a second thought. Willow thinks she can use Sidwell to delete the incriminating footage Brennan has on her. But you don't use a man like Sidwell. You become his puppet. If Sidwell helps Willow, he owns a congresswoman. This takes the heavy sentence to a political level. Willow might stay out of prison only to find herself trapped in a much more dangerous cell, one where Sidwell pulls the strings on her entire life. So, will Willow and Nina get heavy sentences? Legally, it's looking more and more likely. But the truth that remains hidden is the psychological damage they have done to themselves. Willow has become the very thing she used to fear, a controlling, manipulative architect of other people's pain. Nina has sacrificed her integrity for a daughter who doesn't even trust her enough to not blackmail her with fingerprints on a syringe. The walls are closing in, Port Charles. The finger is twitching, the truth is whispering, and the saint is about to lose her halo in the most violent way possible. I want to hear from you, because this storyline has the fandom completely divided. Do you think Willow has officially crossed the point of no return, or can she still be redeemed if she confesses now? Is her cult background a real excuse for this behavior, or is it just a cop-out for a character who has simply turned evil? And who do you think is the bigger villain here, Willow for the drugging, or Nina for enabling her and stabbing an innocent man to keep the secret? If you were Michael, would you fight for custody of the kids immediately, or would you try to save Willow from herself? If you love these deep dives into the chaos of Port Charles, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you think Drew Kane deserves justice, and drop a comment below with your wildest predictions for May sweeps. We'll see you in the next one. Can a single twitch of a finger really bring down an entire congressional career and a family legacy, or are we just seeing the first step in a much bloodier path to justice? Think about that for a second, because what we just saw in Drew's room wasn't just a medical miracle, it was a death knell for Willow Tate's carefully constructed lie. You have to wonder, is Drew finally waking up, or is Willow just getting started on a much darker path to keep him quiet? The air in Port Charles is thick with the smell of desperation right now, and the saint of the gatehouse is looking less like a nurse and more like a prison warden. It makes you ask yourself, how far would you go to keep a secret that could destroy your entire world? For Willow, it seems the limit simply doesn't exist. Let's break down the sheer chaos that led to this moment because, honestly, the writing is on the wall and it is painted in Nina Reeves' fingerprints. Nina was supposed to be the backup, the one person Willow could trust to keep the Saint of Port Charles label intact while Willow handled her political business. But then came that phone call from Valentine, followed by a physical struggle with Jack Brennan that turned everything upside down. My analysis here is that Nina's failure wasn't just a mistake. It was a psychological manifestation of her own inner conflict. She's helping Willow, sure, but her heart isn't in the drugging business. She's a mother who wants to protect her child, but she's also a woman who is fundamentally uncomfortable with the level of cruelty Willow is displaying. When she put that syringe down to deal with Brennan, she didn't just miss a dose, she handed Drew the keys to his own cage. Why did this happen now? Well, the triggers are everywhere. Nina is being pulled in a dozen different directions. Valentine, the struggle with Brennan, the fear of what Charlotte is going through. It's too much for her ego to handle. Psychologically, Nina is an enabler who has finally reached her limit. She's vibrating with a fear that if she doesn't do exactly what Willow says, she'll lose her daughter again. But ironically, it's her own chaos, as the spoilers call it, that is going to be the very thing that takes Willow away from her. Don't you find it poetic? The very thing Nina did to protect Willow, stabbing Brennan with that paralytic, is actually the distraction that allowed Drew to start fighting back. It's like the universe is finally pushing back against this twisted mother-daughter pact. And speaking of fighting back, let's talk about Drew's internal state during all of this. Can you imagine the sheer, unadulterated horror of being locked in while your former lover and her mother discuss your fate right in front of you? This is where the emotional insight gets really dark. Drew isn't just a victim of a drug. He's a victim of a psychological betrayal that is almost impossible to process. He heard Nina ask if Kai should be around because he already knows Willow shot Drew. In that moment, Drew's world shifted. He's no longer just a man trying to survive a stroke. He's a prisoner who just realized he has an ally on the outside. My opinion? That realization provided more adrenaline than any medical treatment ever could. It gave him a reason to fight the paralysis. When he moved those fingers, it wasn't just a muscle twitch, it was a declaration of war. Willow, on the other hand, is becoming completely unhinged. There's really no other word for it. She's operating from a place of pure, primal survival instinct, which I suspect comes back to her time in the Dawn of Day cult. When you've been raised to believe that the world is out to get you and that you have to control everything to stay safe, you don't just stop that behavior because you got a college degree and a seat in Congress. You just get better at hiding it. My interpretation of Willow's current arc is that we aren't seeing a good person gone bad. We're seeing a survivor who has finally decided that being the villain is safer than being the victim. And that makes her the most dangerous person in Port Charles right now. She's not just protecting her kids. She's protecting her own ego. Look at how she treats her own husband. Michael is suspicious. He's a Corinthos, after all, and he knows when a story doesn't add up. He's asking Christina for proof that Willow tried to kill Drew. He knows his wife is lying to him, and yet Willow is standing in Nina's office, screaming at people to stay away from her children. The hypocrisy here is staggering. She wants Drew kept away because he's dangerous. Meanwhile, she's the one who shot him in the back twice. It's a classic case of psychological projection. She's projecting her own guilt and her own dangerous nature onto everyone else to justify her actions. Opinion-wise, it's getting harder and harder to root for her, even if you're not a huge fan of Drew. You have to wonder, when Michael finds out the truth, will he see a woman who is pushed to the edge, or will he see a monster he doesn't recognize? The escalation here is going to be brutal. We have Sidwell in the mix now, and that changes everything. Sidwell, a man who literally bombs buildings and stabs people in the street, is now Willow's go-to guy for problem-solving. Think about the psychological layer of that for a second. Willow, a former nurse whose entire life was once dedicated to healing, is now making deals with a mass murderer to protect her secrets. This isn't just a slip-up, it's a total moral collapse. My prediction is that Willow is going to ask Sidwell to tie off the loose ends. And we know who those loose ends are: Kai and Trina. These are the people who can actually put her in prison for the drugging. If she feels the walls closing in, would she really order a hit on Trina? Given how unhinged she's becoming, I wouldn't put it past her. Let's look at the legal side of this, because it's a total mess. The spoilers are very clear. Willow can't be recharged for the shooting. Double jeopardy is a powerful shield in Port Charles. But the drugging? The locked-in syndrome? The illegal confinement? That is a fresh, ongoing crime. If Drew recovers enough to move even a hand, if he can whisper just 2 words, "Willow did this," it's game over. She'll lose her nursing license, her seat in Congress, and most importantly, her kids. And that is what is driving her into this unhinged territory. For Willow, the thought of Wiley and Amelia being raised by Michael without her is a fate worse than death. It's that fear that's driving her to make deals with the devil, or in this case, Sidwell. The conflict between Dante and Lulu over Rocco is such a perfect parallel here, and it really highlights how far Willow has fallen. Lulu lied to protect her son. She saw a bloody hand and a traumatized kid, and she did what any mother would do. She tried to shield him from the consequences of a trauma-induced mistake on the pier. But Willow isn't shielding a child, she's shielding herself. Dante is devastated because the woman he loves lied to his face. Sound familiar? Michael is about to feel that exact same betrayal, but on a much more cosmic scale. When the truth comes out that Willow has been keeping Drew prisoner in his own body, the Quartermain and Corinthos families will never be the same.